I spent $20,000 on a family vacation with my husband, Woody, and my in laws in Hawaii. I dreamed of walking on the sand with my husband under the sunset, but at the airport, my husband said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket." Go home, when I looked toward his parents near the boarding gate, I was surprised to see Bella, my husband's young female coworker, standing next to them. I lied to myself, thinking maybe she just happened to be on the same flight. But 30 minutes later, my husband's cousin sent me a photo. It was a picture of Woody and Bella secretly kissing in the company lounge. Everything became clear. From the beginning, they had planned to abandon me like garbage at the airport. I was furious. I made one phone call, and their vacation turned into something like a refugee scramble. Before I tell you my next move, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I'm about to tell you everything. My name is Camilla Collins. I'm 32 years old. I spent $20,000 to reserve the entire Hawaii vacation for my husband's family, choosing the Grand Wailea, a resort famous for its breathtaking ocean views, where I carefully booked 2 rooms, one for my in-laws, one for our couple. As for the air tickets, Woody, my husband, said he would take care of them because he has a close friend at the airline. That morning, I dragged my suitcase to SFO Airport very early. The atmosphere was bustling, long lines at check-in, announcements over the loudspeaker calling flights continuously. Yesterday, Woody told me that he would come straight from the office to the airport because he had to finish an important project. So as I arrived, I anxiously scanned the crowd for him. Finally, I saw him standing near the security area, phone pressed to his ear, looking hurried, avoiding my gaze. As I approached, he hung up, looked at me briefly, then whispered, "Bad news." I frowned, asked, "What news?" And he replied with just one sentence that made me feel as though all the blood drained from me. "Camilla, you don't have a ticket." I froze. "Why don't I have a ticket?" "I handled all the hotel, and you said you would handle the flight because you have a friend at the airline." Woody was silent, a bone-chilling silence. I hurried over to the Hawaiian Airlines check-in counter, showed my documents, hoping this was a mistake. But the staff shook their head. There was no Camilla Collins on any flight today. I turned back and saw Woody standing with his parents near the boarding gate, and there was Bella, his coworker. I halted. "Bella, why was she here?" For a moment, I wondered if this was some bizarre coincidence. Maybe Bella happened to be vacationing with her own family, or just happened to be on the same flight. I clung to that thin hope, not noticing that Woody had stepped closer to me. He showed no surprise and said calmly, so cruelly, "Go home. Didn't you say you have work?" I choked, unable to speak. I checked alternative flights, but because the Merry Monarch Festival was going on in Hilo, all flights were full or outrageously expensive. I decided not to go. Woody sent a perfunctory apology in a message. "I'm sorry, you take care of yourself." I did not cry. I only pulled my suitcase and walked out of the airport, the early sunlight shining straight on my face. My shadow stretched long over the cold stone floor. In the taxi home, a million whys filled my mind. Then suddenly, a message from Hannah, Woody's cousin, interrupted my thoughts. It was a surreptitious photo of Woody and Bella kissing in a company lodging room, with the message, "I can't stay silent anymore. You have to know this." Everything became clear. Bella was not there by coincidence. She was invited by my husband to join the trip with his family, and this was a plan to eliminate me. At that moment, one thought flashed. I remembered I'd booked 2 rooms, one for his parents, one for our couple. So where would Bella stay? I opened my phone, checked the hotel booking confirmation email, and my heart froze. The person added to the room with Woody was Bella Collins. 1 double bed, 1 bed. I shuddered imagining the beastly acts they would carry out in that bed, in the room I had paid for. Before me was the stark truth. I looked at the empty space in front of me and recalled. In the past 3 months, Woody had 5 occasions where he said he had to work overtime, unusually, then lost contact overnight, staying at the office. And I forgave. I used to believe preserving the family was more important than pride, but this time, no more. I arrived home close to noon. The house was eerily silent. No husband calling, no familiar click of the TV remote, no smell of coffee he always made in the morning. Only me, with a void stretching from the living room deep into my chest. I didn't turn on any lights, didn't take off my shoes. I just walked straight into the study, where I had spent a month planning the Hawaii trip, comparing room types, daily itineraries, choices of ocean views that I had thought would bring happiness to everyone. I opened my laptop. The glow of the screen reflected on my face, as though replaying a movie I didn't want to watch. I reopened the booking confirmation email, not to find more evidence, but to confirm I wasn't insane. And then I saw it. That same name, that same room, that double bed I had chosen, with the simple thought that I would lie beside the husband I loved. But now, every line in that email felt filthy, shameless, foreign. I no longer read it through the eyes of a wife. I was reading it as someone who had been deceived, someone who once chose to forgive. I recalled. In the past 3 months, Woody had said overtime 5 times, slept at the office 3 times, lost contact in the night twice. And I swallowed tears to believe. Now I knew. Every time he vanished was to spend time with that other woman, Bella. I loathed them both. Loathed how they embraced in nights. I lay awake waiting for a message. Loathed their brazenness in getting on the plane together, while I was left at the airport like someone superfluous. I placed my hand on the desk, took a deep breath, then created a new folder on the desktop. I typed the folder name very slowly. Woody_Betrayal. I dragged the booking confirmation screenshot into it. Then the photo of Woody kissing Bella that Hannah sent. Then Woody's message. I'm sorry, you take care of yourself. Every file was organized, meticulously named, as though I was drafting a report. Not to send to a lawyer, but to myself. To not forget. So that later, if I ever softened, I need only open it. I opened the calendar, marked a red box. Today. Today is the day I officially stop waiting. No more hoping someone will return to apologize. No more placing myself beneath to protect a home built with lies. And I knew if I had enough courage to stand alone in the airport this morning, then I also have enough to begin the journey away from the role of the understanding wife. And to begin, I would need evidence. The more, the better. That afternoon, I didn't leave the desk. I didn't eat, didn't open my phone to respond to anyone. I sat there like someone waking from the first shock and beginning to sharpen into ruthlessness. I reopened iCloud's location tracker, the one Woody and I had used to keep each other safe in the early years of marriage. He had never turned off location sharing. Maybe he thought I wasn't clever enough to remember I was granted tracking rights, and I still held that permission, like a lapse by the unfaithful. A red dot showed the 90-day movement history. I scrubbed back to early March. For 3 consecutive nights, Woody stopped at an apartment building more than 5 miles from his office. I frowned. That wasn't Bella's home, until I zoomed in carefully. And it was the exact address of the apartment Bella held her birthday party at last December. That day, she invited both of us, face warm, wine bottle in hand. I remember feeling uneasy at how her eyes lingered on Woody longer than necessary, but I brushed it aside, thinking myself oversensitive. Now I understood. I was never oversensitive. I was placed in a play. I clicked each stop point, each timestamp, comparing with messages Woody once sent me. I'm doing overtime. Client demands an urgent proposal. I'll stay at the office for convenience. Those lies now appeared ridiculous. Then I checked the door camera at home. I pulled footage from the past month and counted at least 4 nights he didn't return home overnight, though by day he pretended to smile and act as if everything was normal. No collisions, no arguments, just betrayal masked by work hours and morning coffee. I opened the shared credit card statement. We had a joint account, but he always assumed I wouldn't notice small charges. On the 17th, there was a bill from Le Jardin, a fancy restaurant I had never been to. I stared at the name, felt a flicker of recognition. Then I opened a private album in my phone, an album I had created from moments I felt something was off. I named it Things That Felt Off. And there it was, Bella's Instagram story. A red wine glass, French-style warm lighting, with caption, "Deserved this kind of night." I don't remember the date clearly, but now I had the bill. The 17th, exactly. Woody had paid at Le Jardin on the same day Bella posted that story. I didn't need to ask whether they dined together. I knew. I opened an Excel file, lines of notes appearing like a financial analysis table for a lawsuit. I created 2 columns, Woody's reason and actual from location/statement. Nearly no row matched. I knew what I was doing. Not because I wanted to feel pain again, but because I wanted to remain lucid for what was coming. I printed every photo, every statement printout, numbered them, punched holes, and fastened in a hard folder. The file name, Evidence Before I Forget I Ever Forgave. When I closed the file, I didn't feel relief. I only saw more clearly, I cannot return. I cannot forgive, and absolutely cannot allow them to slip away as easily as before. Around 4 p.m., I looked at the clock and knew for certain they had landed. With an early flight from SFO, by now they would have arrived at the hotel, checked in, and were probably sipping their first cocktails by the pool, under the Hawaiian sun I had once imagined was meant for family. I made a cup of coffee, set my laptop in front of me, put it on speakerphone, and dialed the Grand Wailea's customer service line. A young woman's voice answered, cheerful and professional. "Hello, thank you for choosing Grand Wailea. This is Cora. How may I assist you today?" I smiled. A smile even I didn't recognize as fake. "Hi, Cora. This is Camilla Collins. I booked 2 rooms at your resort for this week's vacation. I just wanted to confirm the guest names on file because my husband said he updated the info for his companion." She typed for a few seconds, then paused. "Yes, I see the booking here. Room 1, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, Senior Room 2, Woody Collins and Bella Collins." I was silent for half a second, then asked in a voice so soft it was cold, "Can you confirm who called to make the change to the guest information?" Cora hesitated. The update was made on the 14th of this month. The caller was Woody Collins. He said, "My wife had a last-minute work conflict, so I'll be bringing another relative instead." Another relative. Bella. And they didn't need to sign anything, didn't need to verify anything further. Just one call. And I, the one who paid, the one who picked the rooms, the one who planned the itinerary, was replaced with a lie that took under a minute to speak. "Thank you, Cora." I hung up and sat still for a few seconds. Then I called back. Same number. But this time I pressed 2. Reservations department. A different staffer, named Kelsey, answered. "This is Camilla Collins. I'd like to cancel my entire reservation at Grand Wailea, effective immediately." "Yes, ma'am. Your booking includes 2 rooms for 6 nights, starting today. We just need to confirm you agree to the late cancellation penalty, a total of $3,500. I agree. I confirmed the card number, date of birth, reservation code. All of it done by me. And now it would be undone by me. When Kelsey said, "The rooms have been canceled, confirmation has been sent to your email," I simply replied, "Have a nice afternoon," and hung up. I sat in silence. What filled my mind wasn't revenge, not the image of Woody furious, or Bella flailing as she was thrown out of the hotel under the afternoon sun. It was the image of the bed I chose, the room I envisioned, now meant for no one. Not because I was competing, but because I was reclaiming what belonged to me, including the right to deny shelter to those who once tried to discard me like trash. I opened the evidence folder, added a new page, Evidence 07, Intentional Cancellation of Booking, with a note, no notice, no explanation. Because they never asked permission that evening, my phone rang 34 times, all from Woody. That night, I didn't answer the phone. I didn't respond to any of Woody's 34 calls. I simply sat on the bed, with the bedside lamp casting a dim glow, my notebook by my side, and the speaker playing one voicemail after another, each one cold, fragmented, and void of any real apology. The first message was panicked. "Camilla, what the hell are you doing? We just got kicked out of the room. Do you realize my parents are here?" The third was weary. "Can we talk like adults?" The ninth grew sharper. "I can't believe you'd act like this." It's too much. Thoughtless by the 12th, 15th, 18th. A hint of threat crept in. "You think you can just do whatever you want? You really think this won't come back to you?" I stopped at the 20th. There was no need to hear more. I knew. I had just severed the one thing he assumed would always remain: my forgiveness. I stood up, about to find the evidence folder and add a note about the voicemails, but when I opened the drawer, my eyes landed on a pale yellow envelope, an old medical file I had long forgotten. A chill ran through me as I pulled it out. On the cover was Woody's name, with the header: Fertility Analysis Results, September last year. I didn't recall ever reading it carefully. At the time, Woody had just told me, "Everything's normal, nothing serious." But now I flipped through the pages, and there it was, in bold print: severely low sperm count, high risk of infertility, intensive treatment recommended. I froze, not because of the medical diagnosis, but because of the memory that crashed into me. A year ago, he had told his mother that I was the one with issues, that "we've been trying, but Camilla's a bit weak." I had cried. I had blamed myself. I had believed, maybe I'm not good enough to be a mother. And now I sat here, holding proof that the only one with a problem was the same man who used that pain to hide the truth. I gripped the file tightly, not crying, not hurting, just feeling foolish, and strangely, relieved, because everything that once made me doubt myself now had an answer. I slipped the report into a larger folder, and I added one more line to the evidence log. Evidence 08. Woody's infertility. Overturning all blame regarding reproductive issues. I marked it with a red label: biological deceit, emotional manipulation. Final tomorrow, I would call a lawyer, but tonight I would sleep. I would sleep without feeling like I was the one at fault. The next morning, I wore a simple white shirt, tied my hair back neatly, and drove to Bruce Harlan's law office. Bruce had helped me with a property dispute in 2021, a composed, sharp man, few words but highly attuned to detail. I'd called ahead, requested a private meeting, and he made time that very morning. His office sat on the 7th floor of a glass building in Oakland, overlooking a small park across the street. I walked into the conference room and dropped the file onto the table. Over 20 pages, carefully clipped, the cover labeled, Evidence, Divorce, Camilla Collins. Bruce looked up calmly. "I thought you were still in Hawaii," he said softly. I smiled. So did I. Over the next 40 minutes, I laid everything out: the exclusion from the trip, the affair, the falsified guest information, the suspicious expenses, and the infertility diagnosis Woody had hidden while blaming me. Bruce listened without interruption. When I finished, he nodded and opened his laptop. "We have two actions," he said. 1. Initiate divorce proceedings, provided you can supply financial records, proof of infidelity, and a legal basis for withdrawal. 2. If you'd like, I can help you update your will to protect all assets currently under your name from being touched post-divorce. I nodded without hesitation. I want Woody's name off everything: savings accounts, inheritance, life insurance, trusts, all of it. I don't want him to get a single cent from what I built with trust and real labor. Bruce typed for a moment, then asked, "Do you want to redirect those assets somewhere?" I paused. "I want to set up an education fund for kids in Oakland. Or allocate a portion to the UC Berkeley Scholarship Program. That's where I studied." Bruce smiled slightly. "I'll make it happen." Then he handed me the first draft of the divorce petition. I read every line, every clause. Not a single opening left for Woody to exploit. No grounds for reconciliation. No financial compromise. Just a formal declaration that I was withdrawing from a marriage built on deceit. As I stepped out, I paused at the door, looked back at Bruce. I'm not looking for revenge. I just want to reclaim my right to believe in myself. He nodded. And I'll help you do that, in the language of the law. I walked out of that office, not exactly relieved, but for the first time in months. I knew exactly where I was going. 3 days later, I returned to Bruce's office, no longer carrying a thick file or wearing a stiff expression. I came with one goal: to sign. Bruce had all the documents ready: the divorce papers, complete with attached evidence, the amended will, the waiver of shared assets, the form to remove Woody's name from our joint savings account, and the contract transferring most of my current assets into the Oakland Children's Education Fund and the UC Berkeley scholarship I named Camila's Second Chance, a second chance for children no one believes in. Bruce pointed to each page, explaining every line. I listened without a single question. Everything was correct. And more importantly, everything left no room for Woody to maneuver. I signed each page one by one. The scratch of the pen was audible in the stillness of the room. A notary, an older woman with silver hair and chain glasses, nodded as she verified the signatures, took my fingerprints, and pressed a red seal onto the will. Bruce spoke quietly. Once notarized and entered into the system, this will cannot be contested unless you're proven mentally unfit or coerced. I met his eyes. I've never been more clear-headed. When I signed the last document, Bruce tucked everything into a black leather folder, snapped it shut, and said, "From this moment on, any claim Woody makes over your assets, inheritance, or finances is null." I stood up slowly, as if my body needed a moment to adjust to the new sensation. Unbound. Before I left, Bruce handed me a thick envelope. Inside were copies of the divorce papers and the new will, something I would deliver to Woody myself. I held it without a tremble. On the front, it read in italicized capitals, "Camilla Collins, legal beneficiary." As I stepped out of the glass building, sunlight hit my eyes, but I didn't shield them. I stood tall, descended the steps as if walking out of a courtroom, a survivor. I didn't know what I would say when I saw Woody again, but I knew I wouldn't need to raise my voice. Because this time, I had a notary. I had the law. I had clarity. And I had myself. No longer a wife trying to keep the peace, but a woman who had erased the betrayer's name from both her life and her financial records. SFO on a Sunday morning was as crowded as ever, but I no longer felt out of place like I did last time. Today, I wasn't carrying luggage or expectations. I stood in the stream of travelers next to Bruce, my attorney, who held a sealed, thick envelope in his hands. It was time to face them. Flight HA11 from Kahului landed at 9:10 a.m. I glanced at the clock. 9:14. My heart wasn't pounding like I thought it would. Everything inside me was quiet, as if what was about to happen was no longer a shock, just a final chapter to be turned. At 9:18, I saw them. Woody pushing the luggage cart, Bella behind him with her hair in a messy bun, her face far less cheerful than the vacation photos they had posted. My in-laws walked beside them, looking tired and confused. When they spotted me, Woody's mother gasped, "Camilla!" "You're here?" Woody said. "You couldn't make it because of work." She paused, her eyes flicking between me and Bruce. I didn't reply, only offered a soft smile and turned to Bruce. That's when Woody finally looked up and recognized him, and his expression shifted instantly, from confident to tense. Before he could speak, Bruce stepped forward and handed him the envelope. "Mr. Woody Collins, I'm Bruce Levin, legal representative of Camilla Collins. In your hands are formal divorce papers and a revised copy of Camilla's father's will, in which you have been officially removed from all inheritance rights, including shares in Mitchell Realty and related properties. The air, crowded though it was, suddenly felt suffocating. Woody froze, staring at Bruce, then at me, then at Bella. What is this? Camilla, what kind of game is this? I didn't answer. I simply pulled a smaller envelope from my purse and handed it to Bella. This is a copy of Woody's medical report from 8 months ago. He's infertile. Bella snatched it, flipped through the first page. Her face shifted from skeptical to ghost white. You told me your wife couldn't conceive. You swore it was her fault, Woody stammered. That's private. Camilla, why would you? I cut him off, calmly. This isn't to humiliate you. I just wanted her to know the truth, before she bets her life on a lie. Bella said nothing. She turned and walked briskly out of the terminal. Woody made a move to follow, but his parents held him back. His mother whispered, as if waking from a trance, "My God, you lied to all of us." I looked at all three of them. No anger, no yelling. I just nodded to Bruce. "We're done here." Then I turned and walked into the crowd. This time, I wasn't the one being left behind. I was the one choosing to leave, with calm, dignity, and the law at my back. I returned to my small apartment in San Mateo in the late afternoon. The sky was a soft gray. A light breeze passed through the window ledge, carrying the crispness of January. The apartment no longer smelled of Woody's favorite coffee. No heavy shoes by the entryway. No TV blasting the evening sports report. Everything was quiet. And this time, quiet didn't mean loneliness. It meant peace. I made myself a cup of hot cocoa, the kind Woody used to call childish and cloyingly sweet. I curled up in the single chair by the window and watched the slow stream of cars along Highway 101. For the first time in months, I didn't check my phone. No need to scan Woody's work emails. No need to plan dinner for his family. I opened my laptop and began reviewing personal documents, bank accounts, employment contracts, condo ownership papers, and the investment portfolio I'd quietly built over the past 3 years. I emailed my accountant to update my marital status. While waiting for a reply, I logged into the website of a therapy center in Palo Alto, one I'd bookmarked a year ago, but never had the courage to click Book Appointment. This time was different. I selected a slot. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. That evening, I took a walk around the neighborhood. A used bookstore still had its lights on. I went in, and almost instinctively, my hand pulled out a book I had loved back in college, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. On the first page, handwritten in ink, were the words, "Not perfect, but brave enough." I smiled. A few days later, I called Linda, an old friend who works at an architecture firm in Redwood City. We had once dreamed of opening a studio focused on women-friendly living spaces, a plan abandoned for my wedding. Now I wanted to revive it. Linda said yes without hesitation. Each morning after that, I woke up earlier than usual. I was no longer trying to be the perfect wife. I was simply learning to be myself again. I learned to assemble my own bookshelf, to cook the meals I loved without needing anyone's praise. I returned to the gym, not to maintain a figure for anyone else, but to feel strong in my own skin. And one day, standing in a park as golden sunlight filtered through the trees, I realized I was no longer waiting for someone to treat me right. I was treating myself right. The weeks after serving the divorce papers were not measured in days, but in small moments I had long forgotten. In the mornings, I made tea with my elderly neighbor, Mrs. June, who enjoyed knitting scarves on her balcony. She told me, "You know, family isn't who you're born to. It's who never lets you cry alone." Bruce, my lawyer, gradually became a true friend. Instead of legal calls, he started texting to ask if I'd eaten dinner, sent me a video of a puppy swimming, and one Sunday, invited me to his home for a small family gathering where I was introduced as the bravest woman I've ever worked with. I laughed. And I cried. I joined a divorce support group at the community library in Palo Alto, where I met women with familiar eyes, the kind that used silence to cover hurt. A girl named Erin shared how she had endured 4 years of psychological abuse from her boyfriend. A woman named Rosa from Mexico told us her husband had sold their house without saying a word. We weren't trying to fix each other. We simply sat together, listened, and acknowledged each other's existence. I received an email from Linda. She had registered our small studio business under both our names. It was the first time I saw my name on a business license, not paired with a man's. We called it Haven Nest, a space dedicated to designing homes for women stepping out of one door and into a new chapter. One day, while arranging flowers at the studio's front desk, a little girl, about 6, a client's daughter, ran over and hugged my leg. "You smell like my mom." Like warm things, I paused, then knelt and hugged her back. Not because I wanted to be a mother, but because I understood what it meant to long for a woman who stood on your side. I realized then that family isn't in the registry. Family are those who stay, regardless of what you have. And from the wreckage of my old marriage, I rebuilt not just myself, but a new definition of love: unconditional, unpossessive, unpretending. Just kindness. Quiet, steady, and never needing explanation. I used to believe that forgiveness had to come from the other side, that I needed a complete apology in order to move forward. But it turns out, sometimes all you need is a clear view of the past to let go. One late afternoon, I got a message from Bella. She wrote only a few lines. "I'm sorry. If you're willing, I'd like to meet." Not to justify, just to tell the truth. I chose a quiet cafe in North Beach, not crowded, not loud. When I arrived, Bella was already seated, hands trembling as she lifted her coffee. No mascara, no lipstick, just a girl who looked tired and remorseful. I didn't say much. I sat down, ordered myself herbal tea, and waited. But she stayed silent too long, so I took a sip and gently asked, "At your birthday party last year, when I came with Woody, you didn't seem happy. And when I came back from the restroom, I saw Woody whispering in your ear. You laughed, really laughed." That moment, I told myself I was overthinking. Bella didn't look away. Eyes red, she nodded. "Yes, that's when it started." I didn't say anything because he told me you were separated, dividing assets, that you were moving on soon. I was stupid enough to believe him. I thought he was the one hurting. I wasn't surprised. I didn't feel pain. I only felt empty, the kind of emptiness that comes when you finally hear the truth, plain and undecorated. I didn't scold her, didn't insult her, didn't ask for more. I just looked at her, like I was looking at a version of myself that had died, and said, "I don't hate you, but I don't forgive you either. Forgiveness is for me, not your release." Bella bowed her head and began to cry. But I stood up. No tissues, no turning back. The past still existed, but it no longer had power over me. I thought everything was over after meeting Bella. But Woody, like a wound that refused to scab, returned again. One Monday afternoon, while watering plants on the balcony of my new apartment, a stiff envelope slid under the door. I picked it up and opened it. It was a court notice. Woody was suing me. He demanded a share of the remaining assets in my name: joint investments, shares in the design studio, even the old house currently listed for sale. The reason was clearly stated: unjust removal from marital assets without transparent agreement. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I simply called Bruce. It's time again. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, but Bruce and I had been ready since the day I signed the divorce. What once felt like shattered pieces in Act 2 had become a structured system of evidence. We had the hotel email confirmation from Hawaii, listing Woody and Bella in a king bedroom. We had GPS photos from Woody's old iPad. We had bank statements matching his so-called overtime. We had an audio file of my call with the hotel staff. And finally, the medical records. Woody was completely infertile. On the court date, Woody showed up in an old black suit, trying to look composed. But as Bruce laid out each piece of evidence, Dates, timelines, matched statements. I saw the confidence drain from his face. Woody said nothing, but his fists clenched, eyes locked on the table. There was no defense left. The verdict came in under 30 minutes. The defendant has no right to claim division of assets. All claims are denied. As Bruce and I walked out of the courthouse, a local reporter, likely tipped off, stepped forward with a recorder. Miss Camilla, after all this, do you have anything you'd like to say to your ex-husband? I didn't turn around. I just paused for a second, looked into the distance, where the soft golden light of the afternoon lit the courthouse steps, and said softly, just enough for the mic to catch, just enough for the audience to hear. I didn't need to beat him. I just needed to win myself. Then I kept walking. That night, I returned home and decided to write a blog post. At 2 a.m., the time I used to lie awake waiting for Woody's texts, or his silence. The post didn't name anyone. No accusations. I simply told the story of a woman who gave until she was empty and was still abandoned, who stayed silent until it hurt and still wasn't enough. A woman who once believed that endurance was how you kept love, until she realized that love doesn't mean breaking a little more each day. The post was quietly shared by a single mother in Ohio, a young lawyer in San Diego, a 50-year-old woman who left a 30-year marriage after discovering betrayal. They sent me their stories, pieces of mine reflected in theirs. So I created a small group called A Room of Her Own. Once a week, we meet on Zoom. No cameras, no real names, just voices, and the courage to begin with one sentence. I've had enough. I'm not a therapist, but I have lived through it. I don't heal others, but I make space for healing. Slowly, steadily. One by one, they begin to believe in themselves again, to step out of silence. And I realized, the true worth of a woman isn't in how much she has suffered, but in how she uses that pain to light the way for someone else. Nearly a year after I missed that Hawaii trip with my ex-husband's family, I returned to Santa Cruz Beach, the place where a photo once hung in our old living room. Now the photo is gone, the house is gone, and Woody's name is no longer beside mine on any document. I walked barefoot on the sand, let the wind tangle my hair, let the waves blur every memory. No more courtrooms, no more lawyers' cold tones, no more fake regretful stares. Just me, truly me. The old wedding ring was sold. That money was donated to a scholarship for girls who want to study law to protect women from manipulative relationships. I don't need the ring to remember I was once married. The memories are enough. On my wrist now is a small tattoo, a single straight line, bare, sharp. No flowers, no curves. It reminds me of the first time I walked away, without looking back. That sometimes moving forward is the only way not to stay lost. I sat down on the sand. No tears, no laughter, just peace. A quiet peace that needs no confirmation, no applause. A feeling so simple, yet so rare. I am living on my own terms. That was my journey. If this story reached you, please share it with a woman you love. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Where are you watching this from? Thank you for staying until the very end. We'll meet again in stories that truly touch the heart.